All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a wonderful evening. We have a very special watch list here tonight. Not only is it live, but in about 15 minutes from when I am starting this, we are about to have the second presidential debate. The first one was on June 28th. We were live as well with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And now tonight, in the 15 minutes, it is about to be probably the only debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So I'm going to give you a live reaction. We're going to go over all of that, and it's going to be interesting how it plays out into tomorrow. How it plays out on the recap, because we were talking about a couple of things related to bonds, and people have theories about tariffs and inflation and what happens with Kamala and Trump. So we could talk about that, but even more so than just the politics. Not only are we going to deal with that right now here live, but tomorrow morning you're going to be getting your CPI. That's the next big set of data, or the final set of data, you could argue, ahead of Jerome Powell next week, but I'm going to show you something else there. So I have all of that. We're going to go over the watch list real quick. I'm going to go over the main keys. I'm going to go over the plays, and hopefully we have time to chat a little bit. It'll be about 15 minutes, and then right when I'm done with that, we are going to get right into the debate. So that being said, we kind of are on a time limit, so you guys are going to have to let me know when the debate goes live, because we are going to have to run through this. So my people on the recap, you might like it. You're going to get a quick rundown, but I've been quick with it. Don't hold me, baby. But Chad, I got to say what's up, man. What's going on? Are you guys ready or what? Are you ready or what, baby? Good evening, Lake RJ, Trump 24. What's up, man? What up, Dino? What up, PSC? Laurie, Mackham, BJ, baby, MD, Mancho, B, Fire in the house, baby. What's going on? How you feeling? You feel me? What up, Mayhem? What up, D Denora? K, baby, what's going on? Bing Bong, Devlin, Jiggly, Kurt McGar, baby. Oh, Malik, what's going on? Gen Z Slasher, Kenneth De Guzman, Mayhem, Vegas, Erica. No, man, what's going on? What up, Jay Chase? What up, K Vandy? Good evening, Colin. Oh, we turning. Oh, my God, man, almost 1,000 of you. Are you kidding me? Is that how we're so? You got it. So again, if you're watching the recap, man, you got to realize, man, that's 1,000 people right here now. You know that? I think the last watch list, that was like 5,000 or 6,000 people watched it, man, and that means there's like 1,000 of you right here, right now. So you have to understand, this is a big deal. We're gonna be live in the flesh, and forgive me, I'm lying. Listen, I just got back from the gym too, so I'm not gonna lie. I am liable to say some out of pocket things. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna just forgive me now. Forgive me now, okay? So let's have some fun. Let's go over all of it, but in the meantime, let's go over the rundown. So, honestly, actually, hold on. Before we get into that, I do need to have you look at what happened today and just see. We had a little bit of movement. Honestly, intraday, it was kind of crazy, but if you go and look at the breakdown, it looks like only the NASDAQ moved. The bonds had a very wild bid, and if you look at some individual names, we're going to talk about it, like JP Morgan, there were some big updates with banking regulation, and there were some pretty wicked moves. So, that was one big part about today, but above all else, it does seem like the market is in waiting mode, and there is this big data tomorrow, and in a weird way, I mean, people were waiting for tonight. So that is the first key you got to be looking out for. Obviously, the debate tonight is going to have an effect. You guys know it is about 60 days ahead of the election. I hate to put it in that context because it makes you realize how close it is. So just imagine policy, even other things, some things you could be witnessing, even with oil, that may be having an impact as well. So we'll see what tonight brings with the debate. It does depend on what twist it takes, because you guys got to realize the last debate, this will probably be the only debate between Donald Trump and Kamala. But last debate, bro, it changed the whole landscape of everything. Literally, precedents from 1968 were broken after the last debate because how everything played out. So whatever happens tonight, just be on the lookout. It'll take a twist and turn, but this was something that I told the people on stream today that you got to be aware of. If you guys remember the last debate, nothing unfolded quickly. Do you guys remember that? I hope you guys are well aware. It's not as if last debate was right when it ended in live, everybody was like, oh my gosh, Joe Biden, no, we got to put Kamala. It was like a 3 to 5 day event. Remember, there was rumors first of Joe Biden dropping out after the debate, and then he finally did it, and then there was rumors about who would replace him, and then you found out it was Kamala. It was about 2 weeks. Granted, the bonds moved, and some of the theories people had, that moved right away, but it took some time. So whatever happens tomorrow, even tonight, we may be able to observe some things, and I would be on the lookout for any twists and turns, but I don't think it's going to, I don't think it's like, oh my, it's not going to be something you react to crazy like it's volatility. So we'll find out what it brings, but that's going to be one part of what we have to deal with between tonight and tomorrow. But now, tomorrow morning, you get the CPI. So it's kind of a big deal. It's going to be a little weird, and we could talk about the data, but as far as the market and what is priced in, remember we did this with the jobs report, and the market ended up overshooting by almost 0.75%. The S&P was pricing in about 1.1 on the jobs report. You ended up going about 1.7. So doing that same calculation today, about 15 minutes before the bell, the SPY ETF is pricing in about 1% of a move in either direction. So that's in response to the CPI, and if you even think about it, that also prices in today's event. So you could, I don't know how important today will be. It obviously depends on what happens here with the debate, but for now, everything is about 1%, and that was off of inflation. Now, hopefully you guys understand, and some people accept this and some people don't. Here are the numbers we're looking for tomorrow. Headlines expected to come in at like 2.6 or 2.7. Core is expected to come in at 3.2, and month over month is like 0.2. But do you guys realize inflation does not matter anymore? So I wrote this down on there, but like you can't override the last like 8 months. Do you guys realize this is your inflation chart? So from July or June 2 years ago, that's where everything topped out. And then literally like go back to like a year, June, July, you've stayed within like 3.2 to 3.7 or 2.9 on inflation. So nobody cares about inflation anymore. That sadly is the fact of the matter. And what I mean by that is that nobody is really worried about what the data is tomorrow. Yeah, we already got the jobs report too, and that didn't get in the way of rate cuts or anything like that. So it doesn't matter really what happens tomorrow. That's why 1% is like a lot, but it's not. But the data is not that key, because when it's all said and done, even if inflation's really hot tomorrow, it's not like it overrides the last year. There has been 1 year of inflation going down. Could it make people worried? Yeah, but is it going to drastically change things? Probably not. So that's the only thing. And then if there is, the only thing we're going to really be looking out for tomorrow is if there is a big downside miss. So if there is a big downside miss with inflation and it comes in very, very low, then people are going to start talking about 2 rate cuts. But I will tell you this, even after the jobs report on Friday, that was one of the big discussions. But even after the data, I mean, it faded pretty quickly. So this whole 50 basis points, I think you might need a little bit more. And I mean, when it's all said and done, just tomorrow is not going to be that important. I have something better for you. I think tomorrow is going to be a weird mix of CPI reaction and reaction to the politics. But at the same time, here's the beauty. You know what to be looking for. Retail sales, that is the final biggest piece of data ahead of Jerome Powell and the Fed. I really believe that. Retail sales will be the final determining factor. But now here's the best part. Tomorrow we get the CPI, and then we're going to react to whatever happens here tonight with the debate. But then Thursday, you're going to get the PPI. So that could actually have an effect too. If anything, the bonds will be very sensitive to the producer prices. Honestly, it's kind of crazy. I have to probably show you. Well, you could this is a producer prices chart. You'll see the full chart when I go to the other screen. But like, this is producer prices. It's actually a very, very high index. It has not came down. But that's another topic. But when it's all said and done, that'll be your final set of info, like data-wise, that we can react to in the short term. Otherwise, retail sales next week, and then whatever tomorrow brings with the CPI and whatever happens tonight with this debate, that'll probably be our big driver. But when it's all said and done, again, even down to the debate and what happens, I hope all of you, especially now that you guys are here live for the debate too, like, bro, you guys better get this. It's like at this point, you should be getting ready as best as you can for Powell and the subsequent reaction of the market after rate cuts. Rate cuts are about to start happening, assuming nothing gets in the way. So you got to really start thinking what your plan is on cash, on investments, or what are you looking for, soft landing, hard landing, how do you plan on going about that? All of those questions are going to be very, very important, okay? Powell's going to be September 19th, so literally next Wednesday, I believe. So it's right on the doorstep, and that's why I'm like, after that, the curve is already uninverted. After having 2 years, the longest yield curve uninversion, we're about to see what happens with data and a lot of other things with the economy. So you got to just start thinking, what is your plan and how do you plan on hedging it? How do you plan on diversifying and going about it? This would be the time to really think. But like I'm saying, whatever the data is, CPI, PPI, whatever, like this is the shift and the descent that we are finally moving into. So I hope you are locked and loaded, and I hope you're ready. But we have 3 minutes until the debate. So now let us get into the play. So you guys think we could do it? That's it. We're only 11 minutes in. So look it, we're knocking out the watch list, so you could go back. That's the beauty for all the people watching the recap, or if you are coming in late, you can watch backwards and, get up to date with all of it. So I think we should just knock this out, man. Let's get this out the way because they're going to lag. I do think the format of the debate, it is going to be a little weird. I don't think they're doing any intros. They said like something about like how they're going to like mute it and do something. Oh, crap. I forgot on the other one. Wait a minute. Last debate, I had to go and do it on, what's it called? I had to go on YouTube. I forgot about that, or Twitch. I totally forgot. So, yeah, it's going to be, remember? I forgot. And I had to go on Twitch, and I had it muted. Do you guys remember? I forgot about that. I forgot. I don't know. I think we could do it. I forgot. Maybe we'll just make it private. We'll just make today private after today. That's it. They're going to clap us. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. But it'll be a fun time. I hope you guys are ready. But in the meantime, don't let me get distracted then. As we wait for that, like I said, it's going to be a different format. So I think they're going to hop right into it. But let us get into the blaze. So right off the bat, number one, this was a very big deal today. And I made a lot of plays, bro. So it was it's kind of crazy because this was actually a big deal. It's funny. People try to blame other things on the move, but I would watch the banks. We made a lot of plays. I even made downside plays yesterday, and then I grabbed upside plays today. But the banks moved a lot because there was a rumor last night into the morning that there was going to be changes to Basel III, the regulations, and the changes were going to be favorable to the banks. If you look this morning, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citi, all of the banks were trading higher because of this news. The rumor at night, they were loving it. But then by the middle of the day, Mr. Michael Barr, the Fed Vice Chair of Supervision, he came on and he started talking more changes to Basel III. And then before you knew it, all of these banks dumped. Now, at the same time, the CEO of JP Morgan made some comments about guidance, but so did Goldman. And Goldman didn't drop as much as JP Morgan. And like I'm telling you, if you go look, it was hideous. One, this was the biggest drop in a single day on JP Morgan Bank since 2020. So again, we bought JP Morgan in like 2021, 2022. So that's the biggest drop since we've owned this stock, which is kind of crazy to think about. But the thing about JP Morgan, or this one I want to show you, the intraday, like, dude, you were up. That's what a lot of people fail to realize. Like, look at this, right before 10 a.m. So people wanted to blame the CEO, but it was right when Michael Barr stepped in, and then that clapped everything. So the logic is I would watch these banks. There is going to be changes with Basel III, and if you are not familiar, Basel III is simply it's banking since 2017. They've been talking about these global regulations on banks and how they want to handle them, and they said by 2024 they're going to all agree to have a framework and implement it by then. So we're in 24. This is going to delay some things, and now they're saying they want to change some of the requirements that they've been talking about for a while. So that ended up having a big effect. But Chatadonia, I think it might be time. So I have a couple more plays. We'll get into that. But again, we'll talk about it after. I don't know how long the debate will be. Actually, here, I'll just tell you now. The yen, I'm still in one of those. Just keep in mind that more rate cuts are going to lead, or more rate cuts in the United States, or people talking hard landing. That's going to move the yen. And at the very least, just don't forget tomorrow, the yen has been very responsive to data. The yen in bonds, right when data comes out, they've kind of been moving more than like the SPY candle. So keep your eye out for that. And then oil, I'm still in that. And oil's been moving a lot, bro. And the news should be making it go up, which is crazy. But at the end of the day, I'm still playing the same idea of the upside. So just watch out in the sense of, it's going to have a bigger range, but the idea still remains. So, all right, man, let's see. What do we got, baby?
Donald Trump in June.
So let me get the futures up. So remember, for educational purposes, we need to listen to this debate on the presidential election so we can see how it affects stock futures.
The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock.
It says they're going to have 2 minutes.
2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for two candidates.
If you don't like my interruptions,
President Trump
this is a widely publicized event that you could go listen to anywhere, and you choose to come in here and get mad about me talking.
So let's now welcome the candidates.
You might have
to
a
the
problem.
Stage. Vice President Kamala Harris.
I mean that in a positive way, but
like
you should. I'll pay for therapy for you. Kamala, hi. What? Hi.
Kamala Harris.
Am I Kamala?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
It's an honor to have you.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country.
Yep.
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
I don't think that's what they want to feed them.
Small businesses. I was actually, my mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion from America's deficit.
Tax cut? Well,
my opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the
long as he doesn't
tariff
lose
will
it,
be
he
substantial
wins.
in some cases. I took
That's
in
it.
billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China.
She's gonna try to
in
make
fact,
eye
they never took
contact
the
with him
tariff off because
and
there was
piss
so
him
much
off.
money they
Don't
can't.
look into her
They would
eyes.
totally
It's
destroy
like Medusa,
everything
just
that
don't
they've set
fucking
out
look.
to do. They're taking in billions
talk
of dollars from
policy.
China and other
Look into the
places they've
camera
left
and
the
talk
tariffs on.
policy.
When I
That's
had
all
it,
you
I
have to
had
do. Don't
tariffs,
look
and yet
to
I
the
had no
left.
inflation.
Please don't do it.
Look, we've had a terrible
Look, just don't
economy
look at her.
because
Just don't
inflation
look. Don't
has,
make eye
which is really
contact.
known as a country buster. It breaks
little
up
baggy
countries.
eyes. She looks like
we
a
have
Furby.
inflation
Those
like
little
very few
eyes.
people
If
have
you
ever
make
seen
eye
before.
contact,
Probably the
so
worst
lock
in our
in. Don't lock
nation's
in.
history. We
Biggest-
were
biggest
at
eye contact. Don't do
21%,
it.
but that's being generous because many
Don't be
things
generous.
are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher
Problem?
than they were just a few years ago. This has
feel
been
like when
a
she blinks,
disaster for
it's like
people, for the middle
mechanical.
class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums,
So,
and they're coming in and they're
We're
taking
roughly about 3 minutes
jobs
in.
that are occupied
and
right
he has
now by
already
African
pivoted back to
Americans
the
and
border.
Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are
loves
going to be
this one.
affected very soon.
He's already
and you
here
see
about
what's
3
happening.
minutes
You
and
see what's
45
happening with
seconds
towns
in.
throughout the United
They're
States.
at it.
You
They're
look
at the border. They're
Springfield,
killers at the
Ohio.
border,
You look
everywhere.
at Aurora in
The border
Colorado.
now. All
They
the
are
way. Let's
taking
talk
over the
about it.
towns. They're taking over buildings.
time
They're
to talk
going
about
in
it.
violently.
If you don't talk about it
These
now,
are the people
we'll
that
never
she
talk about it.
and Biden led into
And
our
Biden.
country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created
so
one of
much.
the
You know you
greatest
could watch this on
economies
your
in the history of our
local
country.
cable television
I'll do it
provider.
again and even better.
We are going to get to
And you
immigration
could, like, watch
and
the
border
mac and
security
cheese
during this
commercials.
debate,
I
but
feel like they would
I would like to let Vice
would
President
entertain
Harris
you.
respond on the
I feel
economy.
like you would
Well,
really.
I would
feel
love
like
to.
you watch
Let's
the ads.
talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald
Definitely,
Trump
but by
left
something
us
that was
the
in
worst
his
attack
control,
on our
clearly.
democracy
Fuck yeah.
since the Civil
Terrible.
War. And what we have done is
If
clean
gas
up
was
Donald
$1,
Trump's
give me that
mess.
fucking terrible
What we
economy
have
again. I
done
don't
and
care.
what I intend to
I
do
filled up
is
my
build
G-Wagon for
on what we
$17.
know are the aspirations and the hopes
I
of the American
bought an
people. But I'm
extra
going to tell
tire
you all
for
in
my
this
extra
debate
tire.
tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear
Just
tonight
lied and called him
is
a name!
detailed and dangerous
Trump,
plan
don't
called
fall
Project
for it, Trump. Let me
2025
get mad,
that
Trump.
the former president
Trump, don't
intends
react,
on
bro.
implementing if
Don't
he
react,
were
bro.
elected to get.
Don't, it's a trap, Trump.
I
It's a
believe
trap.
very strongly that the American
She
people
just
want
name
a president
baited
who
him,
understands
called.
the
She's like,
importance
don't do it.
Of bringing
Don't
us together
gaslight
when
us
we have
after
so
you
much more in
gaslight
common
us.
than what separates
You're,
us.
you're a piece
and I
of shit,
pledge to
idiot,
you
and
to
they
be
call
a
us
president
names.
for all Americans.
They call us
President
those
Trump will give you a
pieces
minute
of
to
shit.
respond.
Call us
Number one, I have
names,
nothing
and we're
to
not
do-
going to
as
let
you know,
them
and as she knows
call us
better than
names,
anyone,
those
I have
pieces
nothing
of
to do
shit,
with
poopy.
Project 2025. That's out there.
That's out there,
I haven't
that's
read
right.
it. I don't want to read it
I
purposely.
don't even
I'm
know
not going to
25.
read
I
it.
counted
This was a
25.
group
I
of
go
people that
21,
got together. They came
22,
up with some
23,
ideas. I
26.
guess some good, some bad.
I don't even say
but
25.
It makes no difference. I have
I
nothing
didn't even
to
show
do.
up to
Everybody
my
knows I'm an
son's
open book.
25th
Everybody
birthday.
knows
Fuck
what I'm going to do.
Project
Cut taxes
25.
very substantially and
Don't
create
even
a
know.
great economy like I did before.
I'm not even gonna
We
look.
had the greatest economy.
won't
We
even
got
look.
hit
I
with
don't
a
even look at
pandemic.
25s.
And the pandemic was
Leonardo
not
looks at 20
since
not me.
1917 where
Not me.
100 million people died.
that.
Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic.
Phenomenal.
We handed them
Phenomenal.
over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns. We got masks.
She looks
we did
way
things that
better,
nobody
though, than
thought
fucking
possible.
Biden, though.
And
Y'all
people
don't
give
remember?
me credit for rebuilding
You
the
sick
military. They
fucks.
give me
Y'all put
credit
him
for
up
a lot
there,
of things,
half
but
dead,
not enough
just
credit for
staring.
the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back
At
jobs.
least she
These were
kinda looks
jobs,
like- you know what I'm
bounce
saying?
back,
Fuck
and it
you
bounced
guys. You
back
have
and
no
it went
idea.
to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does
He has a
everybody
way
else.
better
Vice
blank
President
stare
Harris,
than
I'll let you
Biden did.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
What do you
I
mean he
am
has no
offering
plan for
what
me?
I describe
You
as
have
an
not made
opportunity
any
economy, and the
lady
best
with no
economists in
plan.
our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America.
There's no plan for you.
What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse.
fucked up version
Mine would
of an
strengthen the
argument with my
economy.
girlfriend.
What the Wharton School
my
has
girlfriend
said
was
is
a lot
Donald Trump's
dumber
plan
And it was for the
would
country. It doesn't
actually
make any sense.
explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as
Who's
something
laureate?
that would increase inflation and by the
fuck is
middle of
laureate?
next year
You
would
don't know
invite a
Lauren. You like
recession.
Lauren.
You just have to
Lauren.
look at
Noble
where we
Lawrence.
are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Oh, wow.
Just a soundbite. They gave her that to say.
She's going to he's
I
defending
went to the
himself.
Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our
I'm
worth,
accredited. I
our
have
value as a
credentials.
country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and
I don't know if this will
create
backfire.
jobs
Did he
and create
just
a lot of
don't
good,
mansplain
solid
Warren. Don't tell
money
her.
for our country.
Don't
And
explain
just
to
to
her. Oh,
finish
he's
off,
falling for it. Fuck.
She
You see
doesn't
it?
have a plan. She copied
She's
Biden's
getting him.
plan.
He
And
doesn't
it's
have a
like
plan. Got him.
4 sentences.
Thank you. Look at
run,
that's why she's
spot,
laughing.
run.
She knows.
4 sentences that are just.
You guys
we'll
fuck
try
outta
to lower
here.
Taxes.
That
She
punch
doesn't have a
landed.
plan. Take a look at her
She
plan.
got him with
She
that dumb
doesn't have a
shit.
plan.
You don't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to
Doesn't
drill
affect
down
him,
on
and I
something
don't
you
have a
both
plan.
brought
I have a
up.
fucking
The
plan.
Vice President brought
This
up
bitch, I went
your
to fucking
tariffs.
Wharton.
You responded,
I
and let's
put in
drill down
fucking
on
me in
this
this shit.
because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for
Where the
tariffs,
fuck
as you
did this
pointed
guy
out
come
here,
in?
on
Who's
foreign
wait,
imports
what?
across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have
She's like,
immediately
"What's
cut
a
the
tariff?"
tariffs. But
She's
those
still trying to
tariffs are
figure
there
out
3.5
that part.
years now under
gonna
their
come in, though.
administration.
China.
We are going to take in billions
China.
of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation.
You don't have a plan.
They had the highest inflation
That's all
perhaps in
she's
the
gonna
history
say
of our
and win.
country because I've never seen a
No,
worse
you don't.
period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say
Future
80
barely
and
moved off of
85
this.
and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal
Kamala,
with
we've
China,
always ran
what
a
he
deficit,
ended up
but I'll
doing
take
is
it.
under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of
She
lies,
said,
and
no,
that's not
fact
actually
check.
a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot? She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected,
this is where she's going to win or lose the campaign. But if she was going to get any
in his Project
big W or progress,
there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that
as long as he
nobody
can make
thought
it
was
clear
possible.
that he's not
The
like
states are now
banning
voting.
But most people
What she says is an
associate
absolute
Donald
lie.
with an
And as far as the
abortion ban.
abortion ban,
That's what
no,
they're trying to do.
I'm not in
but
favor of abortion ban,
as long
but
as
it doesn't matter.
he has to
because
make that
this
clear.
issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to, because again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote.
Make it easy.
Especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out.
Little jabs
and said,
every.
We'll do it
just every
again. We'll
2
do it a
seconds.
different way. And he went out, got rejected
not letting
again
him
by
slide.
the Supreme Court.
He's
So
not
all
letting
these
him
students
slide.
got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people
What
that
the
had
fuck
to
are we
pay off
talking
their
about?
student
Are we talking
loans.
about abortion
They didn't
still?
get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain
J.D.
view, but
blatantly
I think he's
lied.
speaking for me, but I
But
really
it's
didn't.
okay.
Look,
I like it. He's
we don't have to discuss it
on my
because
behalf.
she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans.
You
They
know,
couldn't
it's
get
out of
student
the
loans. They didn't
deal.
even come
I'm
close
not
to getting
open,
student loans.
not closed.
They
We'll
taunted
see.
young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and
Thanks,
asking
moderator,
for an abortion.
for the
That is not
talking
happening.
point.
It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country?
Like we pray to have a family, and now we can't kill the
who are
abortion.
working 1 or 2
It's
jobs,
bullshit.
who
Wait,
can
what?
barely afford child care
IVF now.
as it
IVF,
is,
just in case.
have to travel to
They're
another
both confusing
state
as shit, bro. They both
to
just
get on a
yap.
plane sitting next to strangers, to go and get the health care she
This is
needs.
IVF.
Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact,
he literally came
when
with,
they got a very
she copied
negative
his
decision on
IFV or IVF
from the Alabama courts,
data
I saw the people of
announcement the day
Alabama
after.
and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do
would
abortions
veto. Oh,
in the
this is
7th
good.
month, the
Answer,
8th
answer,
month,
answer.
the
Both
9th
answer.
month, and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to
Come on,
immigration and
no.
border security.
See, if this was a real debate, that they should have dueled on that. He should have answered if he would veto, and she should have answered if she's going to clap the baby at 9 months right before it come out. That would have been a fair trade of answers.
Reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal
I'm the only
organizations.
person on this stage.
United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported.
Nice.
And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job.
Republicans got in your way.
It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States.
Would have done a lot, but there was
I know
a
there are
problem.
so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised.
But then the felon that we were putting in jail said, don't fix it.
To attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. Yeah. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get you.
How's everybody doing today?
Just ask, though, why did you?
How you feeling?
That bill and successfully
actually, how you feeling? Tell me, how you feel good?
First, let me respond to the
What you dream about today? How do you feel?
People start leaving. People don't go.
How do you feel? Everybody, come on. Let everybody say hello.
The people that do go, she's bussing them
feeling
in
great
and
on
paying them
three.
to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies.
Don't you dare talk about my rallies. Fuck you.
That's because people want to take
you have no idea what you
the
fucking
country
stepped into.
Our country is being
Our
lost.
rally,
We're a failing
fuck
nation.
your country,
And it
what you're
happened
doing. Our rallies are
3.5 years
fucking
ago.
top tier.
And
It's like
what's
EDC
going
for
on
fucking
here,
rednecks.
you're going to end up in World War
Fuck
III,
you.
just to go into another
Fuck
subject.
you.
What
Fuck
they
you
have
completely.
done to
Fuck
our
you.
country
You've
by
no-
allowing
you're
these
batshit.
millions
Fuck
and
you.
millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
Jesus,
the
oh my
pets
gosh, he did the
of
laugh.
the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country,
Let's see how
and
she
it's
responds.
a shame.
That was the latest news story in the last 24 hours.
As far as the
yes.
reason they want to make America great again. Very simple phrase, make America great again.
They got me. They got me. Hello. They got me. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? We back? Mine's not working.
It went to their benefit. We're a failing nation. And
why did it stop? Am I here? Do you hear me? Oh, hold on.
For food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of it.
We'll find out.
You talk about extreme. You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive.
Yeah, the yen is rocketing for some reason.
Term.
Interesting. Bonds aren't going up either.
And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric,
very weird,
when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job. And they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history.
Why? I'm sorry, but I agree.
In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
What about that isn't reasonable?
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal
for real,
that the vice president has
very
reacted
solid
to
point.
As well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard.
And all these people going off on him, he fires them.
No problem
no one
using
got fired
the U.S.
for
military.
Afghanistan.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this.
What does this
look like? Will authorities be
and
going
then
door to door
futures
in
are
this
dropping.
country?
Hold on.
It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals.
BJ member.
They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
Dude.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI
I have a story.
says overall
it's kind of
violent
funny.
crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities.
I had a very
the cities with the worst crime.
experience.
It was a fraud.
Remind me
just like
after.
their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you.
Oh, he said the jobs report's a lie.
So rich.
He said it.
Coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found
before an election.
liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
FYI.
And let's be clear.
The guy who opposed Maduro recently,
stands
he is also
on the
fleeing
issue
as a
of what is
political
important
criminal.
about respect for the rule
Technically,
of
he's
law
a felon too.
and respect for law enforcement. The former vice
And that is
president
your only
called
rebuttal.
for
I'm very
defunding
worried,
federal
sweetie.
law enforcement, 45,000 agents. Get this. On the day
crazy.
after he was arraigned
He said
on
you
34
lied about the jobs
felony
report.
counts.
She said you're a felon.
So let's talk about what is important in
What
this
about the
race.
jobs
It is
report?
important
Go
that
back
we
to
move
the jobs
forward,
report.
that we turn the page
What if he wasn't a felon?
on
What
this
if he was a
same
good
old
law-abiding?
tired
What about the
rhetoric
jobs?
and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have
What
a
about
plan
the jobs?
for, address
I get
what
the
we must
jobs.
do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries.
That's
But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's
swinging
a
a little
criminal.
bit harder.
They're the ones
Remember
that
last time
made
with Biden,
them
he was
go
kinda
after
playing
me. By
soft.
the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete
yen
and
is
total
ripping, so
victory.
again, Bank of
2 months
Japan,
ago, it was
You're
thrown
getting
out.
some headlines here.
It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has
everything's
openly
according to plan. Comments
expressed
have
disdain
launched up the yen
for members
and then
of our
futures are
military.
dropping. I don't know,
Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back
Nikkei
in the White
futures are down by
House
1.
with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run
Hard
for
landing,
president,
yen
you
will
said
go
you wanted
up,
to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My
need
work
to pay attention to
that is
risks
related
that market
to
moves affect
having
prices.
a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done.
It's not a bad speech.
Protecting seniors from scams.
It's just it's not authentic.
My values have not changed.
Cap.
And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective
it's hard to have
that
the
is about
credibility
lifting
after
people
4 years
up
of hiding.
and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars. Many, many billions.
1 million
and when people see it, they are
stupid.
even surprised.
You
So
stupid
we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Does that sound familiar?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
She went out.
Be careful
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment,
We're
as she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days.
Kamala's just smiling.
And I want to talk about the peaceful
sun.
transfer
You have
of
a
power,
limited
which,
sun.
of course, we
Fuck
all
you.
know is a cornerstone of our democracy and the role of a president in a moment of crisis.
They bring up January
Mr. President,
6th?
on January 6th,
Fuck
you told
that,
your supporters
6J,
to march
shout
to
out
the
the
Capitol.
end.
You said you would be right there
They
with
don't
them.
feel me.
The country and the
Your
world saw
stream's
what played out
behind.
at the
Fuck
Capitol
you,
that day.
refresh.
The officers coming
Good
under
evening.
attack.
I hope you guys are living
Aides
good.
in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just ask you,
David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond.
Do them dirty. It's about you, you narcissist.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator.
Scared.
I was there.
Oh, my God.
And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital.
They're going to get you, I know.
To desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers
last debate,
what
they didn't really talk about a lot. This debate, we don't have to go back. From the past.
Let's not go back. We're not going back. Well, it's time to turn the page.
It's weird.
And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear,
like you already live in the White House.
Point,
you
Donald
won't even
Trump,
leave.
the
You just change
candidate,
rooms.
has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
You just don't want to go back to your old crib.
If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking, let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future.
That's a bad tagline.
And not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
You live in the White House. You can't be like, let's.
A different term, and it was
back.
a term that related
you live in the White House
because
already.
they have destroyed our energy
that's where your
business.
Amazon
that was
goes.
Where bloodbath was. Also,
Pennsylvania
on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people They covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal.
She wanted to clap back, but not because you do that. How did you know?
Those people how do you know that's
many
what the people,
fuck we get Joe to do?
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue.
She looked at it. She rolled her eyes like,
this into focus. Truth in these
times
that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
He definitely has heard the
uncle answer. Couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know
still
that.
won.
It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said
no
we didn't have standing.
Fraud.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. You only get this on Truth Social? Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. Fired. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing
you get fired.
that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States.
Good.
And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump.
No, they laugh.
I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost.
You hate her? You fell
because
for
you
it.
did, in fact, lose that election.
It's bait,
it
bro.
leads one
It's
to
bait.
believe
Let's see
that
what he does.
perhaps we do not have
You
in
guys
the
are getting
candidate
mad.
to my right the temperament
You guys are falling
or
for
the
it.
ability
You're like,
to not be
fuck
confused.
you! Hate
about
you,
fact.
Camelot!
That's deeply
Shut
troubling,
up!
and the
Billy's
American
died.
people deserve
You
better.
are. Fuck you!
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just tell you
Let
about
me
world
just tell you
leaders.
right now,
Viktor
this-
Orban, one of the most
this fucking
respected
lady,
men.
this
They call him a
lady.
strong man. He's a
Okay.
tough person, smart.
Fucking crazy.
Prime Minister of Hungary.
okay,
They said,
guys.
why is
It's
the
okay.
whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just
why is there
quoting
so
him.
many words?
China was afraid of him.
Exactly.
North
Who's
Korea was
laughing
afraid
now?
of him.
Bitch.
Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline
American
in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians
The
build a
American
pipeline
one.
going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most
check
feared
that,
person is Donald Trump. We
up?
had no problems when Trump was
up?
president.
What's up?
But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if you weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes,
He's
and they
saying
threw
it.
him out of office.
He's saying
And
it.
you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And
Tell
when
him.
she ran,
Tell
she
him.
was the first one to leave because she failed.
Tell
and
him.
now she's running.
Uh-oh,
I
that's
don't
it.
understand it, but
Mr.
I'm okay
President,
with it
respond
because
to that.
Your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more
Respond to
to
that.
get
Respond to it,
Turning out
Kamala.
Israel-Hamas
Earn my
war
vote,
and
Kamala. Let's go. What do you have to
hostages
say
are
to
still
that?
being held, Americans among them.
Oh, fuck
Vice
you.
President Harris in December.
Go back
you
to that.
said,
Fuck
quote,
you.
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Fuck
but you
Israel!
added, quote,
No,
it
go
matters how.
back!
Saying international humanitarian law must
Go
be
back!
respected.
No!
Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated
This is
40,000 Palestinians are
is
dead.
bullshit.
Nearly 100 hostages remain.
bullshit.
Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's
Benjamin
not a deal in the
Netanyahu. Go
making.
back.
President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do
Fuck,
it?
they're like, oh, it's another
Well,
controversial.
let's understand how
Change
it
the
got
subject.
here.
Change the subject.
On October 7th,
You're like, oh, Israel,
Hamas,
Palestine.
a terrorist
Oh,
organization,
yeah, look, you're like, yeah, this is important. Yeah, of course.
slaughtered
Oh, hold on.
1,200
Israel.
Israelis.
Oh, Ukraine.
Many of them young people who
Oh,
were simply
gun
attending
control.
a concert.
Oh,
Women were horribly raped.
Well,
And so
raped.
absolutely, I said then, I say now. Israel
Fuck the
has a
question.
right to defend itself. We would.
So let's hear the question. What
And
the
how
fuck,
it
man?
does so matters.
Go watch this on
because
PBS.
it is also true.
You want some
far
calm
too many
viewership.
innocent Palestinians have been killed.
They just brought up the main
Children,
pillar of
mothers.
democracy being
What we
threatened,
know
and they
is
just
that
glossed over
this
it
war
like it
must
was.
end.
And they said, well, let's talk
It
about
must
another
win
fucking
and
armed conflict.
immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we
PBS,
need the
mother-
hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we
She
must
said, work
chart
around
a
the
course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security
Donald
for the
Trump
Israeli
stares,
people
so-
and Israel, and in equal measure
His
for the
blank stare is
Palestinians.
someone just like,
But the
yeah.
one thing I will assure you always,
yeah.
I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies
spouting.
pose to Israel. But we
yeah.
must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas
Go
in order
back
to get the
to the
hostages
other
out
one.
and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel.
Yeah,
she
was she
wouldn't
reading a
even
text
meet
message?
with Netanyahu when he went to Congress
Don't
to
fall
make a
for it,
very
Kamala.
important speech. She refused to be there
Kamala,
because she
he's
was at
baiting
a
you.
sorority party.
Because
of
Kamala, if
hers.
you're like, I
She
love
wanted to go to
Israel,
the
then
sorority
you're gonna
party.
piss off
She hates Israel.
Kamala.
If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one.
You hate them,
she hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population.
She hates the fucking Palestinians.
The whole
she hates both
place
states.
is going to get blown up.
Hate both
Arabs,
of them solution.
Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump.
She has no idea
now
what to
Iran
respond.
has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended.
Bro,
if I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming
Bro, she keep looking
president.
down at something.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that he's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators. He wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin way down, Daffy Duck. Said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it.
She liked it.
Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets paid a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Thank you, guys. Here. Wow. So, wait, I wanted to show you guys something during the break.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Can I show you this? Well, here.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
You can't, bro. You can't lie. That flowed perfectly. I know some of you are hella mad because for some reason want to live in a Marxist society, and I understand how you easily angered. But at the end of the day, you cannot. That flowed perfectly. You know, you're only gonna get that opportunity once every 4 years. So I'm glad that we took it, man. That was pretty epic. So. We are on our break here. I think we are going to listen to it. So in the meantime, I will tell you, my story is kind of controversial. I don't want to, okay? I'm going to be very vulnerable with you guys. I'll be honestly, 2 things happened at the gym. One, did anybody see me at the gym? Did anybody at the gym see me? Because I'm pretty sure I saw a Chad. Otherwise, this story gets even weirder. Because I swear I saw a Chad. And I never made that much eye contact lifting weights with somebody because I thought it was a Chad. He kept looking at me, so I kept looking at him. So I walked him down with my eye contact. I'd never done that before. So that was not any of you? Yeah, no. I looked deep into his eyes while lifting. I made sure he got really weird. That makes sense why he got weirded out. No. He definitely was the victim. Well, that was part number 1, but are you ready for this? This is the other part. That's not the part that I'm not vulnerable to tell you that. Seriously, that happened. Screw you. Fuck you. Okay, here's the deal, though. Here's number 2. It's really funny, and you can't get mad at me because, I loved it because all I saw was my dad. That's what it reminded me of. But, bro, I went to the gym, and I saw my first immigrant. I saw my first immigrant at the gym, and you might be like, wow, Josh, that's very controversial. But hear me out, bro. It was literally my dad at the gym. Homeboy was wearing cargo pants, a polo with the collar up. He looked like a 1999 Nelly music video. And then him and his homie, bro, and they were fucking doing crazy-ass workouts with the fucking 7.5-pound dumbbells. I was like, I said, welcome. I don't know. I fucked with them heavy. They reminded me of my dad. I was like, yeah, they had boots on. No, it was funny as fuck, bro. I'm not going to lie. Because they were just getting their workout. I'm like, man, let's go. I'm like, I swear this is exactly how my dad looked coming to him. My dad didn't even go to the gym, though, man. He ain't never, he lived, Habibi. He lived. It was very good, bro. But yeah, we'll be right back. Damn. So my commercials, that's all I had for you. I had my gym stories, my intense eye contact, and the immigrants. I have the brain commercial. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. Is there any questions? We did have plays. Again, oil. We're already in oil. Again, the yen. That's already popping up. So I even told you that before it went up here. And I don't know if you guys remember the last live watch list. Anytime Japan goes down, if that yen gets a bid, I mean, that's been good trade, Habibi. Everybody, fun for the whole family. Oh, we're back.
Here again.
So here's the deal. Let's see what happens, but
Davis.
I don't know,
Welcome
man.
back to this historic
I think
ABC
Kamala
News presidential debate tonight. We're going to
fuck you, bro. I think Kamala needs to step it. Okay, I thought he was going to talk. I don't like him.
Has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries.
Just
you
wait,
have said you would solve this war in 24
off.
hours. You said so just before the break tonight.
How
exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe, like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president. Okay, they respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years.
Show me one reason why you
hasn't
respect
spoken
Biden.
to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war?
Yes, all of the donuts, man.
Best interest to get this war finished
really
and just get it done.
I appreciate it.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Bitch. Tell him.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky.
She did good. It was a great response until she started laughing for no fucking reason.
Invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries.
I was with her, bro. I thought it was a good clapback.
Important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself.
And I gave him $100 billion.
Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense.
I could have gave them two stories.
And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided,
all this shit that's good for the environment.
As an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
Putin.
And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda
is the only time
not
Russia has
just
ever
about
encroached
Ukraine.
on Ukrainian territory has been under Democrats in the last 30 to 50 years.
Are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
It's pretty extreme, Kamala.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you.
I know they called out Trump when he's extreme,
Afghanistan
but
came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier.
He's going to take over all of Europe.
Please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men.
He'd be sitting there with nothing.
But he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please.
Quiet, please.
He would have been sitting in Moscow.
Oh, don't say that. Quiet.
Much happier than he is right now.
She actually became quiet.
But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't have to talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And
Quiet,
eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
Okay.
When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times.
Don't laugh.
The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I wanted to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did.
Oh,
and as a result,
what? You supported the
America's
Taliban.
taxpayers
Fuck
are
you.
not
You don't
paying
care
the
either.
$300 million a day
Shut
we were
up,
paying for that
white people.
endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans.
Is this a play-by-play on the wire?
We honor
you guys see
the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive
this is giving you a play-by-play.
Respected world leaders.
Like on any notable punchline.
This
if you
former president,
if you guys want to read it, Trump defends himself. Harris says dictators are rooting for him.
Because he
Harris
does
calls
not,
for ceasefire.
again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations
yeah, thank
with
you.
the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time,
win.
the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them.
I don't know
with
why.
snipers.
He better talk about the women's
And I
rights
got
thing in
involved
the Taliban.
with the Taliban.
It's crazy, bro.
Because the Taliban was doing the
Kinda,
killing.
it's very
It's the
sad.
fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong
fucking
people all the
terrorists
time.
run a fucking
But
country.
I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
Why?
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President
Why do you
Harris,
want to move
quote,
on to that?
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight.
Okay.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of
these
something.
interviewers,
I couldn't care
bro.
less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
These interviewers are setting him
I
up.
don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out.
She's black.
And I'll say that. And then I read that she was black.
Now she
and
says
that's
she's
okay.
black.
Either one was okay with me.
It's
that's
fine,
up
I
to
don't
her.
care.
That's up to her.
I'm just telling you what I read. She's black and then not black. What do you want me to say?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career,
She's going to switch it up, depending on the
attempted
audience.
to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
I actually remember that.
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual.
Wasn't that 2016?
Who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Isn't the middle nemesis saying, what did you want me to do?
Want better
you wanted me to
than
just sit there, fuck
want
you.
better than this.
He's still not American.
Want
fuck
someone
you.
who understands as I do, I travel our country.
What is Hussein? How many
We
Husseins
see
have
in
you
each
met?
other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
I'm going to get me a meal.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
Jesus, bro.
And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
That's what you're opening with. Clearly, I'm not Joe Biden.
What is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President Trump, we have to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
She has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she has
we do
a
have
plan
to move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
you,
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
No,
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry. We're going to move on, Vice President Harris.
Her
President
mic
Trump,
is already
this is now
on.
your
Yes.
third time running for
You
president.
notice?
You have long vowed
Trump
to
is-
repeal
has
and
to, like,
replace
they
the
have to
Affordable
turn him
Care
on.
Act, also
But
known
hers
as
is always
Obamacare.
on.
You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do
I'm
you
eating
have a
right now.
plan, and can
yeah.
you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away.
Oh, shit.
I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and
Bro,
they're
he's
very
bringing
good
up the
people. I have
China
a lot
shit.
of good people in that administration.
Then let it rot.
We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something. I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time. When I will never forget
I wouldn't wish Obamacare on my worst enemy.
When it was up for a vote in the United States
go to the hospital
and
almost
the
about to
late,
die.
great John McCain,
like you have insurance,
who you have disparaged,
and they take care of you, and then you get the check, and then your deductible.
You don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, "No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan." And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like?
That is a good part.
Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of...
You made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water.
Do you guys really care about climate change?
Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Wow. Catadonia, how do we feel so far?
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Strong sense of underwhelmment. I don't know. I feel like this is how y'all would feel like if you actually met me in real life. Because you'd be like, wow, Josh, you're so cool. And then you meet me and be like, oh, he's really short. And he does kind of look like a lizard. And he just keep looking at me with his weird, beady lizard Egyptian eyes. You'd be like, I don't know. This is very underwhelming. Because I wouldn't, like, dance in front of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I feel oddly underwhelmed by both Trump and Kamala. I do think, I'm not going to lie, I mean, I am biased, obviously. I'm voting for Donald Trump. Don't crucify me, but I don't know. I expected a little bit more, though. Like, I feel like Kamala had a little bit more to prove. Like, you know, this was her chance to, you know, show out, make a name for herself, come out with receipts, you know, and be like, look, he's a bad guy. But Kamala, like, took you back to COVID. Like, we really were prime COVID for a while there. And then they went back and forth. I mean, Trump got a little angry. He fell for some of the bait there. But I don't know. We'll see what the odds do. But at the end of the day, I don't think anything has changed, like, dramatically. I think this kind of leaves us, this is very lukewarm. It leaves us in kind of the same situation prior to the debate. I don't know if this is moving the marker. I think if you were going to vote for Kamala, this isn't going to change her. This is all you have. You can't fucking back out again. Like, you guys are stuck. Like, literally, I think you might have had a better shot with Biden. I don't know if you guys could go back to Biden in a weird way. Like, if the closing statement, maybe you just go back to Biden. But at the end of the day, it's just like, I think if you're going to vote for Kamala, you're already voting Kamala. If you're voting for Trump, you're already voting for Trump. And then that's it. I guess she didn't do bad. I mean, I don't think she did, like, terrible. But she did, you know, kind of weird laughs and other personality stuff that she possesses. But, you know, she wasn't the worst. But at the same time, she didn't really, like, bro, we're talking about the president of the United States. Like, there's no way, like, you don't fuck up, like, a interview in front of 90 million people who are like, okay, you did it. Like, that's what I'm saying. I guess I kind of expected more from her because I feel like she has to prove a lot. You know, like, that's it. She was there. She seemed a little bit drunk a couple times. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd party with her. Fuck it. No shade. I mean, why not? I'd invite her. You know, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't too bad. I think but then again, like I'm saying, I don't think it was too much substance where I'm like, wow, like, that was, like, again, if if like she came out with like a RFK type speech, you know, we'd be having a different story. But I don't think she really came out swinging. I think Donald Trump has been the same Donald Trump, a little bit more aggressive again. But other than that, I don't think this really moves the needle too much. But let's see how the media spins it. And it's not over. We're waiting for our final closing statements. I'm drinking a protein. I ate. That's it, man. I'm about to down like 80 grams of protein between this meal, bro. So it's good. I hope you guys are doing good. What other feelings do we have so far? Are you proud to be an American? Where at least I know I'm free, and I hold the long-term ties, 'cause Josh told me so, and I won't forget to say 10% and pay myself first. That's it. You feeling lonely? It's okay. You can make them. Don't you make model cars? You could do that. I don't know if that, and then you could cuddle with it. Pretty biased questions. Yeah, they did set up Trump a little bit. I think they were really coming at him. It's kind of funny. You're voting Trump for the pets? Okay. Oh, the eating cat. You're talking about the migrants. It's kind of funny. It's a weird story. I don't know. I feel like I'm not really too worried about. I feel like that if Bob Barker was still alive, he'd be mad offended. But then he'd be like, that's why. Good thing you spay and neuter. What? Save the ducks. You're feeling like you should go travel the world? Okay, that's a cool Friday. I'm annoying. Shut up. I feel you, bro. Welcome. I'm glad, bro. Like I said, you could always tune in to PBS if you get sick of me. I don't know. Some of you, I don't know. But then again, I don't think Arthur deserves that treatment. You be fucking cussing out Barney and shit. You need to calm down.
Country.
One
that is focused on the future.
You're voting for Kamala.
And the other that is focused on the past.
I feel like you identify with Kamala.
And an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us.
No, I see it.
And we can chart a new way forward.
I'm not judging you. I am, but I'm not like, I don't hold it against you.
A vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay?
I said, you going to donate to the campaign?
And that's the kind of president we need right now.
And I never
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to
Why hasn't she even talked about it for
3.5 years to
Fuck doing it.
create jobs and all the things we talked about.
At all with
Why
Kamala.
hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military.
No,
she gave a lot of it away to the Taliban.
Hold on.
She gave it to Afghanistan.
I love you.
What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News.
All right, well, futures barely moved. I wrote down their summed up statements. It's kind of funny. They all kind of, like Kamala, she was like, yo, I'm going to lower prices, give us respect in the world, and protect fundamental rights, women's choice. And then Trump's like, she would have done it already. And then everybody in the world's laughing at us. That's it. That's how they both dropped the mic. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel. That was very unsatisfying. I feel very like, I feel like I just had sushi and I'm still hungry, but I spent $125 and I know I'm supposed to be full, and I still feel like I ate, but I still feel hungry, and I don't know, I feel unsatiated. I feel like this is why they made Sprite. I feel like the thirst quencher. I don't feel quenched. I feel like that was, again, both of them, like, again, Kamala just said it like the most, and again, you guys got to realize, like, I do agree, like, she would have done a lot, but it's not like, again, I don't think it was authentic. I don't think Kamala is coming up with an idea, and if she really believed in some of this shit, like that'd be like, the way I view Kamala, that'd be like if I told you guys, like, invest in the long term, and then I only brought it up once every 4 years, like right before you guys were about to, like, vote. And I was like, hey, guys, just don't forget, save 10%. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, you know what I'm about, because, like, I fucking tell you every day. So that's why, like, a lot of the talking points she's on, unfortunately, like, that's why I'm saying, like, I wish that she had something like RFK where, you know, she, like, had some passion and something behind it. But, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. But, again, Trump got he fell for a little bit too much of the bait. But, you know, again, I don't know. It was just weird. Like I said, Trump was kind of like that too with last time. Biden was just dead. That's why everybody let it, you know, everybody got focused on the other one. But even last time, Trump was a little like, Trump was still kind of soft. Trump rambled a lot more last time. So Trump rambled a lot less this time. Last time he just was in, and again, they got into the golf questions. So, but this time, again, that's why I'm like, Trump clapped back, but it still all felt like, it felt all so scripted. So it was very, very wild. So we'll see. Oh, yeah, bro. This is another channel. I think you're aware of that, Jesse. But I see you, baby. I think, bro, there was a lot of Chads, bro, all throughout. So now that we got that out of the way, Random, Smoking Joe, Nicole, Joe Little, John Tugan, Mark Dez, Random Stuff, Stephen Perry, James Cass, Stock Trading, Vegas, Fat and Dyed Purse, Tim Whitman, Carlos, Dirty Bird, and Malik, baby. Oh, look, that's all the chats. They showed love all throughout today, man. So thank you guys for tonight. Harder. Yeah, bro, we were locked in. So we did go over the watch list. You guys could go back through everything if you missed it. But I think that's it, man. I think we're gonna have to wrap it up there. We could talk a little bit more, but I don't think that's gonna leave a market reaction. I mean, like I was telling you, I don't think there was any tricks up the market sleep. But even after we just watched that live, I will tell you guys right now, my first thought is this. It's the same thought I told you guys at the beginning, where I think we need to watch how the media spins this. So pretty much in the next couple days, you're going to watch if the media gangs up against or for Kamala as they try to drive home a certain message after what just happened. Because do I think there is anything like big? No. But like I'm saying, it's all the same stuff. And I think they're good. No, there was a lot of claims that were crazy. I mean, the jobs claim. Trump said something else, again, about he even made the democracy claim. There was a lot of crazy one-liners. But like I'm saying, give this a little bit, and we'll see how it all plays out. Again, I think the media is in, like, Bloomberg and all these guys are going to take something and spin with it, and then you'll have an idea. But like I said from last time, just don't forget. Let me give it another way. Or maybe I should show you something. This is, I think we could end it, because I do want to end it. I want to go play a game of 2K. I think I still have time. Oh, it's already 8? Damn. But it's okay. I want to teach you guys a little lesson. I don't mean that in, like, a weird way. Like, we'll teach you a lesson. No, like, I mean, like, this will help you in life. I mean it, I promise. But this is something to look out for, the 2-year bond. Okay? Just because this is, like, how people feel. And if people are going to feel a certain way, if you believe that, whatever the and why I'm saying this, because literally from the last debate, look at this. I can't make this up. This chart, the 2-year bond, clearly the shift in break below 475, it happened right after the last debate. So what I'm trying to tell you is that whatever people feel about whatever you hear, so no matter, because people from Bloomberg are listening right now. I'm either 100% correct, or I'm like 50% a narcissist. Either way, just bear with me, regardless whether that information comes out to be true or not. The fact of the matter is the bonds are going to tell the answer. A multi-trillion-dollar bond market is bigger than all of our opinions. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if there's a decisive move following this, that's going to be your answer of how people feel. So again, whether it's related to the Trump trade is good or bad, or again, if people think rate cuts are going to happen, if the odds of Kamala or Trump mean this or that is going to happen, then the bond rates are going to reflect that, because again, it's a 2-year bond. So that's what I'm saying. If you think inflation's going to come back and tariffs and this, like, well, why would a 2-year bond be plummeting then, literally almost 50% lower than where the rates are today? So very, very good thing. A very, very good thing. I think it'll teach you a lot. I think you will learn a lot. But that being said, Chattadonia, I love you all. I will see you in the evening or in the morning, and I hope you have a glorious evening. I hope when you guys go to bed, I want to give you a philo, but I might make you wait till tomorrow. But I want you to envision good things, okay? And I like to remind everybody, when you're blessed, bro. You're about to lay your head down on a little pillow, like, you so sweet, that. I don't mean it. It sounds very condescending, and it kind of is, but and I mean it. So you take a step back, I need you to get the wide angle. You could stub your toe, but I need you to zoom out and realize you stubbed your toe on a beautiful beach with room service. I don't know if they have room service on the beach, but you get me. What I'm trying to tell you is look at the bigger picture, but you're blessed, man. Life is good. You got blankets, you got a house, you got your little bed. So, and what I'm trying to say is don't take it away. Don't rob yourself. Just understand you blessed when you go to bed tonight, okay? And I want you to wake up, so you wake up excited, and you got it. And I want you to envision good things, bro. And you could you got dopamine in your head, and you could just envisioning and thinking about the right things. They don't feel me. So I'm gonna sleep like a baby tonight. You should too. You have the choice right now. That's it. I want you to just let that pillow. Just oh, it's soft. Wow, it's a pillow. Wow, it's so soft. You know that? Pillows are soft, bro. Dog, homeboy, your ancestors, they slept on rocks. You know that? Assuming you came from a caveman. Why not? Why not? You know what I'm saying? That's amazing. You got a pillow? Stop it. They don't feel me. I know, it's a different level of grateful. They don't feel me. See, that's what I'm saying. Y'all don't feel me. Yeah, you don't feel me. You laughing. You don't feel me. Nah, you feel me. You got to really think about it. That's it. You laughing, but that's facts, bro. They mattress was a rock. You know what I'm saying? Now you got a mattress. You got a pillow. You got a pillowcase. What the fuck? Come on, bro. So enjoy life, bro. Yeah, be grateful, man. Be grateful. Because one day they're going to make you rent your pillowcase. Yeah. See? What? What now? What now? Boom. Just like that. You're a Marxist living in a weird society. Ask a question, you go to jail. Oh, look at that. Boom. You're under arrest. See? So enjoy it while it lasts, motherfucker. Okay? I don't even know. That's it. We'll see. So I don't even know if I have to delete this video. So we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys tonight. Who won? Nobody. Only big corporations, multinationals, MNCs and liberalism in the economic sense and globalism won. I think that's the only winner. That's all I have. But thank you all again. Have a wonderful evening. I will see you in the morning. Thank you and finger to the sky. Amen. Amen. And Harna. Amen, Chattatonia. You guys have a wonderful night. Peace out.